There's a culinary boom happening across the country, and it's one that many consumers give profound thanks for. And amidst the clamour, if you listen carefully, every chef we celebrate, to a man, acknowledges the debt they owe the food they grew up with. Mom's cooking, if you will. Yes, just about every great chef across India and the world will credit their mother's kitchen for being both inspiration and guiding force. And yes, while that is of course a trend that we both applaud and reap the benefits of, it also begs the question, where in this competitive culinary scene are all the great female chefs and restaurateurs? The good news is there are a few, perhaps not as many as there could or should be, but enough to be going on with, and those are who we're celebrating today. Those who are trying new things, forging new paths, and are busy tapping away at that glass ceiling. One that unfortunately exists as much across the world as it does over here.
Worldwide, not only in India, worldwide there are less than 3% women chefs who are heading kitchens.
Those aren't encouraging numbers, but here's the better news. Ritu takes pride of place amongst a group of women who started simple, started slow, and are not just purveyors of great deliciousness to a grateful public. They are full-blown restaurateurs with multiple outlets, endless ambition, and an ever-expanding fan base. In short, they're playing with the boys and beating them at their own game, even if that's not why they do it. And to prove it, we're starting in Mumbai at a place called Theobroma. Theobroma means food of the gods. No one who sampled their legendary brownies would argue the point. The first Theos opened in 2004, and I'm happy to report we chronicled it back then too. 12 years later, well, things have changed. Not the mother-daughter duo behind it, but the offerings they boast. Even their kitchen has seriously expanded from this to, well, this.
We opened in 2004. Before that, my mom had a home business. So basically, we grew up in a house that big. And then I became a chef, and then we both started Theobroma. And it's now in its 11th year. We didn't have a plan to grow this big. We just wanted one store. It was 6 years on when our second store opened, and then from there on it was just one store after the other, and we've averaged.
We have 10 of them.
You have 10 of them,
and then 2 more in the pipeline as of now.
That's right, in 12 years their empire has expanded. They now produce staggering amounts of the good stuff.
I think if you calculate everything and every single variety of thing, I think we would be close to 450, 500 things if you calculate every single variety that we make.
And so the brownies?
Around festivals like Dashera or Diwali, it goes to 800,000
kilos of brownies. And in expanding to this size over so many years, they too have noticed the need for things to change and the beginnings of it.
Well, it's changing, but it's not only in India. This is globally, right? Globally, it's always been a male-dominated industry and continues to be to a certain extent. But that doesn't mean that they are not women entrepreneurs. I think that women are better at multitasking, and they are better managers of men than men themselves. And I think that when you have a woman in a kitchen, it brings a certain softness to the whole operation.
And it's necessary, since hospitality, as anyone who's involved with it will attest, comes with fairly unique challenges.
We've had to work very hard at it. In baking, because it's such an exact science, even a minute here, there changes everything.
Absolutely.
Like for example, the flour that we get, the water absorption power of it changes on a daily basis from sack to sack, even in the same batch. We have to change our water quantity every single day.
Ritu Dalmia would certainly understand. She is, after all, the original explorer, one whose first restaurant foray began long before the diva she is now synonymous with.
That time it really also felt cool because there were no women restaurateurs that existed not only in Delhi but in Mumbai. And don't forget, before Diva, way back in '93, I'd opened my first restaurant. So there was a thrill about it. The reality is women always cook well. Men chefs, when you ask them, where do you get your inspiration from? They'll say, oh, my grandmother or my mother or my aunt or whatever, but you never see women chefs per se in the kitchen. So I still remember when I opened my first restaurant, which was in Hoskas Village. It was an all men's team. I was 22-year-old, and all these guys were from Taj and blah 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 blah. And my head chef, every time I would tell him to do something, he wouldn't even look at me, and he always had a smirk on his face. And that time, as I said, I thought they knew better than I did because they've been working in so-called fancy hotels for the last 15-20 years. And finally I figured out, hang on, I know better than they do. And I told him, if you don't look into my eyes when I talk to you, I think it's time for you to look for another job. He's still with me. But after that, he always looked at me when he spoke to me, and he started listening to me with an open mind.
And now with 6 restaurants of her own across the capital, her repertoire spans the incredible Italian she's so famous for. There's Asian, there's all kinds of things. She's excited with the change and is also committed equally to, what's the term? Paying it forward.
Oh, it's a very recent phenomenon, I have to admit. Now we have 5, 6 of them. But for years and years, I couldn't get a young girl to come and work in the kitchen because, I hate to say it, 10 o'clock parents were calling, getting upset where they were. So it's not easy. And Shivanjali was the first girl who came into my kitchen as a chef. I mean, that was really like, I can't believe it. Finally, I have a woman in my kitchen. And we now, as I said, have 5 to 6. But if you look at the percentage, out of 150 chefs, there's still less than 5% who are women. But it's getting there, it's getting better. Let's see what future brings.
And yes, she's determined to expand her army both inside her own empire and outside. That said, for the chef herself, the path to true food ran smooth.
Was life difficult for me because I was a woman, or did I face... No, I did not. In fact, if anything else, it was always easier when the MCD people came to, check what they would see a young girl running a restaurant, then they would be kinder to me. Getting alcohol license, go to the excise office and say, sir, license de do na, would be done before. So I hate to say it, but actually it was easier and better. And I think in every way, never faced any problems per se being a woman in the kitchen. When you say women lack business sense, I don't think it's true. They may not always come in the forefront. But even when we were growing up, any decision that my father needed to make, any important decision that he needed to make, it was always done after he consulted my mother. And it's true for most successful women, successful men. As they say, there's always a woman standing behind every successful man.
It's safe to say Pooja Dhingra knows how that can go. It's been 6 years or so since she started selling cupcakes and macarons, and is arguably one of the key players behind the craze for those light, bright French confections. The Cordon Bleu graduate has put emphasis on control, small menus and consistency, and the steadily growing success of her brand would attest to it. 4 outlets of the patisserie, 1 studio, a cookbook, and now her very first cafe.
I'm excited, I'm nervous, I think this has been the dream.
Yeah.
Ever since I was 16, I knew that I wanted to start a cafe.
Right.
And it's been something that's always been on my mind, and I think the patisserie was baby steps to getting there.
I'm not sure that I know anyone else who would describe your patisserie as baby steps, but sure.
So I believe that, whatever your thoughts are, they become things. So whenever I set out to achieve anything, I always start imagining exactly how it's going to be.
Right.
I mean, you obviously have to work towards everything that you think about, but it starts with a thought.
The menu here continues the theme of what Pooja loves most. Simple, clean, happy food with a little something something. Plum paratha with tomato, fresh creamy gnocchi perfectly made, the desserts. The entire Love 15 range is available, but also such treats as Snickers cheesecake and a moist marvel of a milk cake with raspberry, pepper crumble and mint. Did we mention also that she has done all this by the age of 29, which means she started at just 23.
One is that I'm super ambitious, so I always have big ideas and big plans. It's never been about anything small. And I also get bored really easily. So for me, what excites me as an entrepreneur is the creation part of it. That process And I think it becomes an addiction and you start craving it, and every time you do something and you set it up, you're like, okay, now what next, what next? And I think for me the most important part is having a family that pushes me and drives me to do better. So for example, if I achieve one thing today, my dad will already be like, okay, so what's next?
Be assured there's plenty, though true to form, that's not why she does what she does. The cliche has still held true that women cook in domestic kitchens, but the men helm the restaurant space. Like, was there thought of breaking ceilings, or even the awareness of a ceiling that needed to be broken?
No, actually when I started, I know that for women working in the kitchen is tough, and it is a male-dominated industry, and it continues to be so. But I think for me it wasn't so much about gender as I started. It was just youth and age and being young and trying to figure everything out, and lack of experience when I started. The most amazing thing that I see is that I see young girls who send me messages telling me that they feel that they can achieve their dreams now, whether it's in the kitchen or whether it's pursuing another creative field. But it's no longer just that, oh, I can do this. If somehow my experiences and my stories can help other women reach and achieve their goals, then that is the best that I could hope for.